A deep breath as we begin a new week. Breathing, it's very important. It's easy to do the shallow breaths. It's very, very important. Healthy brain, everyone. Welcome back, Artist Journal, October 21st, 2024. Staring off into the green and black as we continue our journey across this pixelated sea. My name's Adrian Pocobelli. It continues. So many of you may have seen this, maybe some of you haven't. Kind of visually arresting, isn't it? Kind of visually awesome. Love the palette, by the way. Of course, Spøgelsesmaskinen, with this dithering digital wonder here as we see what I think is a PFP project, a la Spøgels. Spøgels' version of a PFP project. So here, we'll just start with this work. This is like 100%, okay? Gorgeously. And again, this is something that I just think is so interesting that's happened in digital art, I would argue. It's not like it didn't exist before, of course, and there's always going to be precedent. But again, we're back to this idea of the preeminence of the screen where you make a work that's 320 pixels, like Spøgels does here. It's not a problem, right? It's not a problem. Whereas, how would you, I guess you could put it on Tumblr 10 years ago and then that was it. I mean, and then maybe you put it on a screen at the gallery museum. Who knows? But anyway, so beautiful work here. Love the almost muted out retro screen. And another thing I noticed, you'll notice it's kind of different from the other screen we saw. And let me just bring that up here. So, just to show you the other works in the series, just kind of picking the one that really jumped out. This sold for only 0.044, which was one of the lower priced ones. This one sold for 0.2. Amazingly, I guess with the sunglasses. So you see it's kind of like a profile picture project, hilariously. And this one went to Kiro, a beautiful pink one with what looks like a ThinkPad or some old school laptop there. And there's a clown. And so interesting piece, Computer Heads. Loved the title. And as Spøgels says, meanwhile, on the internet. These are also on Tezos. Here's the one I think that Kiro got, head number 16. They're also on Tezos, so it's multi-chain, as you see here. And just quite a pretty awesome impact. You just gotta love, again, using these retro monitors, right? And then taking these pixelated heads, which seem to contrast pretty well with, I guess, the stillness of these monitors and just the busyness and the movement, the pixelated wonder and goodness of the pixelated joy. It's delightful, isn't it? And so this is 100 Tezos. There are a few on Object as well. So as you see here, interesting colors. And I think they're continue to be released, and then it kind of just dissolves into nothingness here. Here's a nice one with some different colors on here. So pretty amazing, actually. And look at you gotta love just the formal qualities of these lines. Like if you were to treat this as an abstract painting and forget that this is a monitor, just awesome angles here. And shadows, just kind of on a formal level, even the light coming here, gorgeous work from Spøgelsesmaskinen. And finally, there is a Pepe, which is coming out of the monitor and doing a little dance here before it disintegrates. Current bid 0.069. So pretty cool project from Spøgelsesmaskinen. Also another one. This is I think it's an older piece. I feel like I've seen it before, but Pixel Fool picking this one up. It looks like an old Apple IIe. And we used to put the disk drives on the side, but this is another way you could do it, where you put the 5¼ disk drives beneath the monitor. And so kind of looks like the Apple IIe, or maybe the Apple II. Shout out to Mom. And those great green and black colors. So rad work from Spøgels. That's both on Tezos and Foundation. Now, thank you for the support last episode. Let's look at the comments here. Rosacio, speaking of Surrealism turns 100 this year. And it's interesting. I think in the auction market, you've seen in the last 5 years, Surrealism get really hot. I finally saw an article today where it was kind of like Surrealism, kind of has been watered down, and some sort of criticism of surrealism being popular. I'm starting to see pushback for the first time after just today. Maybe I should have brought that up, but you can't cover everything here. So anyways, thank you for the comment, Rosacio. Indeed, 1924, the Surrealist Manifesto. We're actually going to talk about the second Surrealist Manifesto with one of one, I think in a couple of weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Skamra, great show. Thanks for spending so much time discussing my comment and surrealism. Your discussion of Dali in particular, and your discussion of the hard and soft, indeed. I really underlined the point. I am used to decoding images in other artistic works, but never thought of flaccid clocks as flaccid cocks before. Indeed, this is exactly right, to be blunt about it. Yes, there's a certain kind of decoding that is required, one could argue, for many works that you could call, classic surrealist works. There's often, again, a heavily kind of erotic aspect to it, which again, we always kind of travel back to Marquis de Sade, where there's a heavy erotic component, and again, where Sade goes into Krafft Ebing, right, which the case studies of psychopathic eroticism. There's a very again, this kind of psychoanalytic reading that you can have. I guess my art education was lacking there. Yeah, well, you can't know everything, and for all of us, we all have gaps. So thrilled for the question, great question, and glad you enjoyed the answer. Tom Bombattle, thanks, Adrian. Absolute pleasure. Great to see you putting work up, Tom. You have been missed. Quasi objetto. Just to add to the museum's intervention subject, I resonate with your thoughts on persuasion as it reminds me of Hakim Bey's concept of poetic terrorism. I figure these quote-unquote violent interventions do not appeal to the general public as much as they intend to. It's an iconoclastic movement at its best, and I agree with you that they lack a more creative or even educational approach to shift people's perception on the matter, much like Guerrilla Girls did. Yeah, this is... it's interesting to call it iconoclastic, because almost back to what Skamra was saying here, or this idea of surrealism and decontextualizing. Like, I've been watching these lectures on I think it's called the Civilizations on the Steppes or something to this effect. And I think in the Byzantine Empire, if I'm not mistaken, around 800 or 900 AD, and you learn a lot of what happened in between 500 and 1100 by learning about the Vikings and the civilizations on the steppes, or the nomad people of the steppes is actually probably a better way to put it. And there's a war for 150 years on iconoclasm, on whether we should have images or not. And people were killing each other over this. And so it's kind of interesting when you think, nicely worded here, Quasi, and... it is a kind of iconoclasm, one could argue. I mean, you're breaking images, right? Or at least you're kind of, you're almost, again, if you decontextualize what they're doing, and you forget, what do I mean by that? Like, the manifest content is just stop oil. We're protesting because the museum either supports the oil companies or gets support from oil companies or has people on the board from oil companies. Right? Takes oil money and therefore is somehow, accepting that, oil should be continued to be used when it's going to conflict with our environmental principles. So that's the manifest content, right? That's the rational explanation of what's actually going on. But then you could argue, what's the unconscious content? You see people doing the same action from a body perspective, or like, hey, we're destroying images, we're taking a hammer to a image and all this sort of thing. Right. So then you start going, are there, to take a psychoanalytic interpretation as far as the decoding, is there an unconscious motivation here? What is the real motivation for these actions? Right. And then you start to go, is there something else kind of going on here? Is it almost religious? You almost start to get it. So it's interesting. Let's continue. I can even recall Augusto Boll's invisible theater as a kind of intervention that could contaminate the social imaginary. more effectively than the force they're using. And this is kind of what it's all about, isn't it? The social imagination, the collective, like the discussion, it's sort of like another way of putting it is, what are we thinking about? Right? And so, and that kind of impacts greatly what happens externally. Interesting. Great thoughts as usual. Thanks once again for this journal. Thank you, Quasi Objetto. A very nicely worded, thoughtful comment there. Jan, also on Twitter, thank you for the massive response here. Jan Lucas Migone, banger video, thank you. Neural Divine, amazing show, thank you. Filippo Francocci, great show, thank you again. Hasdribble Waffle, thank you, Poco. Wise Blood is an interpretation of the novel by O'Connor with modern twists. So I believe that was the work with the flag, and then there was all American flag that Waffles did with all of the kind of scenes on top of it. Awesome segment on Shohei, and who we started the show with there. You're making great maps dérivés of the visual zeitgeist. Well, thank you. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? It's kind of delightfully interesting to start to try and go, okay, now we've kind of made a few connections between some digital pieces, and we've also brought the physical in, like probably, it's been 2 years probably. But where now it's like, okay, and then what else can we start to kind of correlate here? What else can we start to say? So it starts to get interesting, because then all of a sudden you start to end up in generational territory in terms of, is this just kind of the spirit of a new generation is another way of kind of framing it, right? When you go beyond the digital. So very interesting. Thank you for the comment, Waffles. Always wonderful to hear from you. Blue Alley, thanks for the mention. Last week you'd asked how I'd progress from trying digital after trad art. Recall as soon as Paint was available, I was already playing with it and seeing early CAD 3D rotations helped with later sculpture obsession. Young access, so now first tries at NFT mints, simple oversaturated colors from basic Photoshop, phone, Procreate, because who doesn't love glorious blasts of blacklit beauty? To be continued. Well, looking forward to seeing that, Blue Alley. Thank you for the comment. Kels, nice one. Really love the opening and all the works by Ochie Shohei, Sugoi. I assume that is a greeting in Japanese. So, and again, there is that wonderful artist there. Let's continue. Yoao Salazar, thank you for the comment. Dagmar, thank you for the comment. Relax, make art that makes you happy. Indeed. Andre, let's go. Great to hear from you, Andre Summer Blues. Ilya Barabin, and Helmort. Can you give a look to my art? Thanks. So that is what the community is for, where we're gonna go right away. So if you want me to look at your art, post in the community. I check it before every show. Check Mashka. Mashka loves Shohei's work. What a surprise to see on the show. Well, that's great. I'm glad it's surprising. It shouldn't be a huge shocker, because I've shown quite a bit of their work, but I mean, I guess not everybody's watched all, however many hours this, we've recorded here. But yeah, we've looked at probably over, I'd say a year and a half ago was when we first started looking at Shohei's work, but it's more at the end when I do a bit more of the physical art. It's interesting, that structure. I sometimes get tempted to break that structure that I have for this show, where it kind of starts with kind of like more painterly generally, and then it goes towards pixel art, and then it goes towards glitch. It's hard to break, actually. Like, you can, but it always kind of makes more sense to me, and then AI, and then physicals. It's kind of interesting. Anyways, let's look at the community. Thank you, everybody, for the comments. Prince Sketch. So we have a few works here. So some drawings, thank you for posting that. And make sure, I think we have only post once per week, Prince Sketch, if you can, just to give everybody kind of space here. Thank you for posting. Azerty Betamax, thank you for posting. This is on Manifold XYZ. So interesting kind of phasing of the moon. Minted fully on chain, 100% code. Wow, that's impressive. So that is Azerty Betamax, 369, entering Web 3. So here, kind of animated abstract in black and white, and Print Sketch once again. Zizo, thank you for the post. Looks like a Procreate drawing. If I had to venture a guess, that's on Object. Lejo X with some cool kind of, looks like pixel art. Interesting kind of primary, or at least kind of like the basic digital colors. Almost looks like there's AI in here, but hard to if it's not AI, I have no idea how these were made. Very interesting work. Work in progress. Kind of looks like a manga here with diagrams. Interesting combination. Static Drama, thank you for posting the work. Looks like 3D and Glitch in black and white. That's on Rodeo. And that is called The Runner. Petaril. Thought this was super interesting. This is actually later in the show. And look at this, 60 edited kerned ROM corruption. And it's almost like taking one of those little hexadecimals, one of those little ROM squares, and then kind of minimally going in and tinkering with it. Kind of a very minimal approach. Like, let's just take one of these things, I think, is what's going on here, and then start to add and subtract pixels. Very interesting concept. Nice colors, too. Like, nice, very interesting work. Vincent Law, thank you for posting a work in progress, an abstract, and Mamadou Sao, Unstoppable by Santiago and Sao. And so here, I think we may have seen and have a minimal day. So cool collaboration there. 369 with an animated abstract, and time we saw this one. So thank you everybody for posting. This is pretty interesting. We haven't seen too much on this topic for a while. Psilocybin, often magic mushrooms. Single dose of psilocybin found to physically change the human brain. It's something that's been speculated on, that we talked about, that other people were posting about, maybe similar accounts, actually, that we'll see in a second here. But it's a conversation that keeps coming back, this idea of the brain with psilocybin being able to create new neural connections. It kind of would explain a lot. A preprint study has shown for the first time that a single 25 milligram dose of psilocybin causes physical changes in the human brain. I thought they already knew this. At least they had imaging that showed before and after. So I always get confused by stuff like for the first time. Is it so physical changes, results showed anatomical, functional brain changes were detected from 1 hour to 1 month after the administration. Interesting, it was the 25 milligram dose, not the 1 milligram dose. So, of course, do your own research, and these are just studies that I'm saying here. While numerous studies have shown that psilocybin can produce profound psychological changes in humans, this is the first study to show that the brain is physically altered after consumption. And Dr. Robin Cathcart Harris, a prominent account, explained that physical changes observed were in 2 prefrontal cortex to subcortex tracts, which became more compact 1 month after the dose, and that there was no change after placebo. We didn't know what it means, but it was a solid change. So the brain contained cells that stretch across it like wires or cables. A fat collection of cables from the front to the middle looked thinner or more tightly packed 1 month after people took a big dose of magic mushroom powder. We don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. And I think, here it is. We don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. Big dose of magic mushroom powder. We don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but on average, people were happier 1 month after and could think better. So interesting anecdotal data there too. So kind of just feeds into that whole theory, doesn't it? Very briefly here, best boost at Art Basel Paris from Art News. And so, of course, here, just this beautiful space here, as you can see. What a space. And here, just a quick look at Frida Toranzo Jaeger at Takaishi Gallery. Almost looks like an altarpiece. Some painting. Not sure of the year on that. And here was a kind of a weird one. Renee Green at Bortolami. And so I guess this is the art piece, Scene. And then there's a projector. So pretty conceptual on that front. Bianca Bondi at Moore Charpentier. And here it looks like a little kind of bathroom medicine cabinet or something with plants and objects, a purse maybe. Exotic Elixir, that's 2024, by Bianca Bondi, Kei Imazu at ROH Projects, maybe a textile work. And these weird or unusual pieces. Ground. This Yulan Gallon at Luring Augustine and Curry Mensuto, pretty nice piece. I think this is, 1987, Los Complices. And has this great, love how they painted this beautiful carpet that you'll often see in maybe Latin American works or in Latin American just the world. Hunter Reynolds at PPOW. Ray Navarro's Bed of Morning Flowers. So 1990 and 2018. Interesting. Small works from a larger piece. Sorry, large piece from smaller works, it looks like. Wanda Pimentel. Almost looks like an illustration you could see on Object, doesn't it? Interesting. And Cameron Rowland at Maxwell Graham. So definitely more on the conceptual side on this front. And that is it. So just a little taste of what's going on there. Continuing on, Patrick Amadon. L2s are designed to offload throughput and reduce costs, not for long-term storage of tokenized art. And of course, there's been a ton of usage of base for art, and I think Shape, right? I mean, as far as I understand, Shape is an L2. I still don't know the main platform. I think it's highlight.xyz, but I'm not positive. While they serve as a short-term fix for scaling issues, they aren't built for the permanent, secure preservation that art demands. They are a temporary solution until more sustainable technologies emerge. And it does seem that way. Like if you're going to mint, it's sort of as this account here says, Rick Manelius. This is also why I'm somewhat shocked to see so much of the EVM, Ethereum Virtual Machine inscriptions moving to L2 for scaling. I get the cost is 1 to 3 orders of magnitude cheaper, but you just increase the risk from 10 to 1000x. If the data needs to exist for more than 10 years, use Bitcoin, ETH Layer 1, or Arweave. Interestingly, Arweave. Now, not IPFS. Interestingly. So, all pretty interesting. It's hard to disagree with that. Yeah, art, it doesn't feel as precious from my perspective, to buy something on a layer 2, So interesting. Flexosaurus Rex, art and artists, who of course I follow. Art and artists on Tezos will be one of the leaders the next art super cycle. Forget about memes. So the next art super cycle, whenever that is, it's hard to imagine that there won't be some pretty big action on Tezos. Again, by not screwing up super badly, Tezos has, by keeping it accessible, I'd say Object, not screwing things up. With every day that you don't screw up, it's like credibility grows. And that's kind of what's happened, I think, with Object. Here we are, 3 years later. I mean, we're in 2024. When was Object started? Like 2.5 years ago. But on artists, you'll feel a whole lot better in the end. And indeed, it is a good feeling buying. Like it still sells well, as we see. I mean, it kind of impresses me. It's never, ever just gone silent on the blockchain as far as buying and selling work or buying work. Like the collectors have never just said enough of this, interestingly. Bookmark this tweet, and I think it's the art. And it's just quite a good experience, buying art that you like, right? Robness V3, the blockchain has been compared to the printing press many times. So when I hear someone doing some fancy contract trick with that art, I kind of laugh because it's like, look, my book has pop-out pages. Never been done before. Advancing what's possible with books. So, and I think the point, I think there's something to be said for the blockchain as a medium, for sure. But I think Robness is pointing out that it very easily devolves into novelty, right? If it's just about new for the sake of new, but not because there's some sort of justification, so to speak, then it quickly goes into novelty. So interesting comment. Maybe a little unfair to some works that have used fancy contracts, but I get it. And I think there's something to be said also for what Robness is saying there. Little Cakes, super happy to have met Kazuhiro Ehara in real life today at the group show in Otemachi. His garments project doing AI to handmade physical clothing is really great fashion. Look at these screens. You know what it reminds me of? And it looks like there may even be 4 that are vertical being put together here. You know what this reminds me of is, and many artists do this, but David Hockney being the obvious example, putting several small canvases together to make a huge canvas. In a sense, the same thing happening here with the TVs. In a sense, we complain sometimes, right, about the ratio of TV monitors, 16:9. Pretty awkward, right? However, if you just get enough TVs together, you can almost make whatever shape you want, using that kind of principle. You're going to have these borders of the monitor frames, but it is a solvable problem, as you see here. Quite interesting. You are not stuck necessarily to the ratio of the screen, to the 16:9. So very cool. And here was another photo from the show. maybe showing, it's like a work, is this AI clothing? So who knows? Looks like a great show. Interesting post from Little Cakes. Dr. Lee NFT, seeing these works up close today was something special. Don't think many people fully appreciate what Alpha Centauri Kid is creating here. Proudly donning my ACK, Alpha Centauri Kid PFP in respect, Piano Blossoms is stunning body of work. I brought it up close. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. Looks like some pretty interesting textures. Like I'd love to see this in person. You see here, it kind of looks like, if I had to venture a guess here, this looks like it's actually printed on aluminum and that it's actually kind of mounted, but I could be wrong. Like it almost looks like it's mounted in this frame, this thing here, but I can't tell, or maybe it's just one big print. It's hard to say, but I also feel like I see shadow there. Interesting piece. And I think there's another one. Let me just see if I can bring that up here. As you see here, you see there, we see the shadow again. So I would, if I had to guess, it's printed on aluminum. Interesting works. I don't know anything about them, but interesting look. This was also interesting. Clown Vamp, AI art taking over Sotheby's. I didn't hear about that. Bodo Dow on the 4th floor, Harold Cohen on the 1st. And what you'll see here is actually pretty interesting. So this is a posthumous minting. So here you have the physical. And as you see here, I assume that is Harold Cohen who signed this, but it totally reminds me of the Harold Cohen Trust are the ones who minted the NFTs. And what does that remind you of? Keith Haring? Anyone? Remember that? The whole Keith Haring controversy with the foundation minting the works that were found and then selling it as an NFT. So it's always... Yeah. So I think, as I put it, I think during the whole Keith Haring controversy, I think it's fine as long as it's attributed properly. And the attribution here should be minted by the Harold Cohen Foundation or Harold Cohen Trust, as it says here, rather than Harold Cohen. So I assume they do that. But if you were to sell an NFT, though, as Harold Cohen that he didn't mint, well, then it's not exactly accurate. Right, so I assume Harold Cohen Trust, just like it should be the Keith Haring Foundation, that mints, and that I think would affect the value, one would think. Because the problem with this whole thing of other people minting art, then all of a sudden the Magritte Foundation can come out and, oh, we're going to sell all of Magritte. And is that really worth anything? Right? Then you have is the Mona Lisa next, and who's gonna, is it the government of Italy or is it the Louvre that's gonna mint the, so it becomes a slippery slope. So therefore I have a more, I'd say, cautious sort of approach where it's like, if the artist didn't mint it, the artist didn't mint it, kind of end of story is sort of how I see it. Anyway, interesting. So this was at Sotheby's. Were there any other images here? Yeah, so this was also, I think, Harold Cohen here. And here it looks like a talk. So interesting. So AI art at Sotheby's. Here, just a nice video by Santiago. As you see, beautiful, see the talent here by Santiago. He actually gave me 3 small works like this when I was in Buenos Aires. Like, you see how just beautiful this is. And you see the ink starting to run out, or the paint, and still working with it, and just how careful. The dexterity. So just beautiful video here by Santiago. The poetry process. This is super interesting. So here's Uxine, and a very, very interesting piece. Classic traveling through the medium. So here, what do we have? Here you have a GIF, right? But this GIF, interestingly, is made from this, and I think I brought it up large. Let me see. It's made from this physical, right? But how did you get to this physical? You got to this physical by making a GIF. If you follow me, right? So, right? Because how would you get this? Like, what is this? This is a physical rendition of a GIF of a skull that's turning. And here you have 3 times 5, 15 skulls. So there's probably 15 frames to make that GIF. Uxine then turns that into a physical. Looks like one page screen print. As you can see, the paint is getting dragged across here. The purple and then the blue gets dragged across here, and then you see a little bit of purple. Probably 2 colors, if I had to guess. Maybe 3. And so you know what it looks like? It looks like the dark color was done first, and then together the purple and the blue, cerulean blue, were done on top, is actually what that looks like. And so starting with a digital, going to physical, and kind of almost, for lack of a better term, deconstructing it, even though that's not really the right way to use that, and then reassembling it to create this GIF here, right? So pretty awesome, actually. I mean, quite an interesting, again, traveling through the mediums here. It's like alchemical, as I like to say. On to the artwork. So this was a head turner for sure. Repeated Nature by Zozo. Fabulous work here. Just captures the imagination, doesn't it? I love the end here too. Right here. Just gorgeous. Kind of mysterious. Pretty amazing. Only 25 Tezos on secondary, sold out at 15 Tezos, so you can actually get it for, there's a bit of a listing war, so to speak, here, so maybe you can make an offer and get it even cheaper. Gorgeous work from Zozo. Love the title there, too. Here's Martin Bruce, Pot and Snake. So kind of classic to a certain degree in its unpredictability. You have a Martin Bruce work, which looks like a photo, and then this pot maybe photoshopped on top, maybe not, and just like above the ground or above the rock here. So you see a little bit of shadow, and then you see a snake that looks like it's drawn in with a big shadow, and then the tree, and again, everything looks fuzzed out, and then this kind of gifization of it, kind of adding a kind of noise of a certain kind. Pot and Snake. Just really cool. 900 by 1108, just minted but not listed. More fascinating work from such a cool artist. Nuv 1914. I mean, look at this lineup. Zozo, Martin Bruce, Nuv 1914. Pescador en una camisa roja. Obra de Nico Pirosmani. So maybe that is, so Nico Pirosmani, I think, is the artist, who I haven't heard of. And yeah, another just beautiful work here by Nuv 1914. Kind of looks like someone fishing. Is that a saint? Is that a halo in the water? And then classic Nuv 1914 kind of line there. I've come to really, I think a lot of people do, have come to really just love these little lines. And look at how beautiful the legs are. And again, this kind of dark and light gradients here and this wild background. You see so many different techniques that Nuv has practiced and worked with, all coming together here. And this beautiful, there's a lot of complexity, but then you just have this super simple dress or shirt. Brilliant, still available on Primary from Nuv 1914. Here's Michi Asu Yon. Many came out works. I just kind of picked one. So here, again, just kind of very challenging digital art here, playing with this little bit of kind of spectrum, gray and kind of rainbow-esque spectrum here. Almost looks like a UFO. Not sure what's going on. Pretty interesting. Picked up by Ole for 11 Tezos. Here's Greg Nikshumika, Seven Deadly Fins. So rather than Seven Deadly Sins, so again, more Excel work here, and you see the sun reflecting on the water here, and then some sharks made of these little triangles here. I love this leaving the cursor in here somewhat, and as well as this stuff, leaving the process. It really adds a whole lot to this work, and seemingly even an ASCII side to things. I guess you could put ASCII within the Excel, what do they call those? Not margins, or cells, I think is what you call them. Very interesting. Edition of 20 for 3 Tezos each. Here is RJ, aphorism number 1, AI pixel painting collage GIF. So seeming to do, we kind of saw a preview of this with adding some writing. The terror of the mind must be dispelled not by the shining darts of daylight, but by the study of light itself. So combining writing, I think this is a newer project, combining writing with image. Interestingly, so looking like a forest there, edition of 10 for 35 Tezos, foregone. And here is Yuri J with a house. I haven't seen this one before. Kind of looks like kind of just working in the studio here. Kind of reminds you too of that winter work that's, I think Yuri has pinned. Is it the same as this work here? No, it's no longer pinned there. There was a winter work that was pinned for a while. Anyway, cool work by Yuri J. We have another one from the other Yuri J account, OCT50, interestingly. So more experimentation, repeating layers, textures, and kind of looking like the eyeballs, right? Like a cartoon, and interesting here. So all sorts of experimentation and textures. Look at it up here. It's just great. So it's starting to look a little bit however you say that. Even here, you see the paint just kind of flying, working fast, very nice. And actually that is an edition of 1 for 300 Tezos. Continuing on, Mumbleboy, Youth Are Us. So incorporating some of these characters in, this is a pretty fun one. And just huge files here. So again, physical, digital in combination here. And I think Mumbleboy was mentioning that him and Little Cakes used to watch a show that some of these characters reminded Mumbleboy of. Interesting, here you see the physical collage and maybe internet, JPEGization and everything. And interesting text. I can feel it in my bones. Schizophrenia is taking me home. So interesting piece, edition of 2 for 15 Tezos. And here is Rinnyfish, Love Letter. Kind of a fun one. Great audio. I love the birds here. Cool. Love Letter, sending cosmic cuddles through a rainbow dreamscape. Edition of 10, and that looks sold out. Nice work at 15 Tezos each. And here's Human Kernel, who I believe is Santiago. Maybe it's a collaboration, not sure. Fight the Moon. And this was picked up by Waffles, so interesting background here. And interesting, kind of fuzzed out. This is kind of like classic, where it's like, again, the border, the outline is an opportunity for just filling it with different kinds of texture. A very digital technique, isn't it? I mean, I guess you could technically do that with physical, but it's just there's so many possibilities with digital that maybe it just lends itself more to it. Edition of 1, and that went to Waffles for 14 Tezos. Speaking of waffles, here's Cedar Plank, also known as Hystrubal Waffle. Oh, these are great. Basically taking, and I believe this is Fantavision, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe more than one. Not sure how many softwares are being used here, but taking the palette here, the digital palette, and then, or toolbox, I should say, and repeating it using the drawing tools as subject matter. And it looks gorgeous here too, with the rainbow going up, and then some sort of bear that was maybe being worked on. Very interesting piece by Waffles, edition of 5. And bids are coming in, 40 Tezos. So the market loves it too. And here we see, well, it looks like the same source image. Here, just kind of a variation on it, right? Looks like just a different improvisation. Interestingly, and that is at 35 Tezos, edition of 5. And here is one more, and Cedar Plank, edition of 5. And you see a little bit of the kind of the toolbox user interface. And I assume that's Fantavision, not positive though. And then you see, I almost feel like this might have been taken from another work, but I'm not sure. Anyways, so you see the dog, rainbow dogs, everything, whatever's going on there. Beautiful work. Kudu Kola. It's kudu time when Yuri sleeps. So seemingly a reference to Yuri J here, whose work we just saw with the octopus. And their interesting painting here by Kudukola is someone comes home and then you see someone playing the piano. Kind of has a Yuri J feel to it. A nice combination of elements here. Yuri J wants 10 Tezos. The offers are coming in. And one transferred already to Yuri J. So cool work by Kudukola. And that is 18 Tezos on secondary. Here's Pipi Universal. Estoy cansado jefe. So I think a self-portrait, but I'm not positive on that. Kind of looks like, look at that. Look at all the detail there. Look at all the texture and then just the flatness. Interesting piece and interesting white background too. From Pipi Universal, edition of 5, and sold out at 8 Tezos each. And here's Cesar, the Dead and the Murderer. And this is digital illustration and kind of cool, kind of got an urban feel to it. Look at that rad camouflage, pink camouflage. How cool is that? This looks like a record cover or a CD cover, doesn't it? And you have these great kind of checkerboards or chessboards. Interesting piece. So there's Cesar, the Dead and the Murderer. I think this is Jake Studios was saying was his brother, if I'm not mistaken. Interestingly. So you see how small this community is. Edition of 1, and that went for 25 Tezos. Nice work. Hilarious and gorgeous and head-turning work from The Myth. Myth Sun number 41, and not sure, so that went to Skomra, or it's currently being bid by Skomra for 100 Tezos. So definitely a Warhol feel to it. It's like Warhol meets the Mike Tyson tattoo meets The Myth or something. A brilliant image, even the pink background. Just a gorgeous myth work here. And again, kind of screams Warhol, doesn't it? With the wig and the turtleneck. Super interesting series. I love this work. Lemonade with the Myth. This is hilarious and it's just kind of fun. And it's like, you know, what I love about it is like the Myth doesn't take themselves like overly seriously. Like this is a pretty great, like it's fun. I like the vibe of this work. The lemonade with the Myth head in it. It's just kind of fun and cool. Lemonade with the Myth. But it kind of perfectly fits in with Myth's whole kind of, you know, body of work. Super interesting. 1 of 1 went for 200 Tezos. So nice work. Untitled Portrait of Donald Trump by Wasteman Goldminovich. Often critic of, and so there you see Trump with a hamburger headphones and a hot dog on top. So you see all the wonder and amazement of a Wasteman Goldminovich work, and you see also the beautiful texture in the person and then contrasting with the background that is flat. And they're in some Crocs, which I hear are making a comeback, and the flower being mowed over. Not sure what the Oscar Mayer reference is. Cool piece. Instantly recognizable, too, as a Wasteman Goldminovich. Edition of 12, and did that sell out? It's on its way, 8 gone. And here is Naturlicht Tourism, Vanitas Still Life. Nice painting here. Nice digital painting of, I believe digital, pretty sure, of a Vanitas. And nice flowers on top here, and love the gray on top of the painted over top of the outline, but you can still see through it. Beautiful, actually. Open edition, only 2 Tezos, 25 minted so far. Nice work. And here is Mikkel Noelsen with an interesting, kind of different kind of abstract here. Usually we see kind of three-dimensional, but here we got splotches of paint put on top. It's kind of got a more like textured, kind of almost painterly feel to it, interestingly. Abstract there. Here's Macrometry Croco. This is on Rodeo and 1 minted so far. And I think that's it, actually. So here, interesting abstract, kind of pixel art or digital abstract. Interesting color here by Macrometry. Here's Enigmatras, a very cool, I always love sports, and I kind of love what's going on here. You see the runners where you see the shadow of the runners or they're duplicated, and then you see the color there, but then the ASCII text on top matching them. Pretty nice. Again, always kind of being very inventive. Even this, what looks like stretched out ASCII underneath. Very inventive work. Look at that, 12,000 views, 66 retweets. And here's Jake Studios. One up, one down. So a cool digital drawing here, drawing the pixels, so to speak. And there's the cursor, a Supreme baseball bat, and everything. Interesting digital artwork. I think putting out a lot of work, if I'm not mistaken, Jake Studios. That's pretty fun too, almost a Mario reference. And is this Object 98? It is. Pretty nice for Object 98. Settle auction, 35 Tezos. Yeah, like pretty nice piece. This is Tokyo Love. And I guess this is on Foundation. It minted a while ago. Okay, so this is an older work. This definitely caught my eye. As you see here, just kind of a moody, I think it's a painting, a digital painting. Nice piece here. That's on Foundation from Tokyo Love. I guess an older work. And continuing on, here's Walk, Sleep Like a Lumber. So a mysterious series here. And it looks like maybe someone is sleeping here. So I almost wonder if these are from photographs that Walk has taken this time. Not sure. Edition of 1, already 7 Tezos. Continues to do well. Here's someone called Genresis. I think we know Genresis. And quite an interesting piece here. Kind of a head-turning work with the color, the bizarre composition, and even this interesting texture here. Very, very unusual piece. This is on Zora, 4 minted so far. Careful on the internet. So falling on the internet. Here is Our Milk, still life with web cameras. Look at this. So you see the work in progress. So here is the colored version. And here it works as both. Interestingly. You know, it gets me thinking, like, should both be minted? It raises that question again. Should both versions be minted? Very interesting question. Very nice pixel art piece by Our Milk. Still life with web cameras. Where are the web cameras? I see the still life. Maybe there. Maybe here. Maybe that's a phone filming it. Low trippy. Money so long. And here you see a just kind of interesting, almost looks like dinosaurs, a la pixel art, and kind of a forward to the floor type pixel art look, almost photographic or video underneath. Edition of 10 for 10 Tezos each. Here's Sabato with a compressionist edit. She walks alone in the meadows, 259 kilobytes. So again, pretty interesting. As you see, it's pretty good to get that down to 259 kilobytes, considering all of the frames that are probably in here. And then it looks pretty good too. I'm kind of back to what we were just discussing. Because with digital, and again, you can make a red and yellow version where the background's red and the pixels are yellow or whatever the case is. You know, should this not be done? This is kind of like what I ask myself. Like, should there be, 50 different versions of this? It would affect the collectability, one would imagine, right? But nevertheless, it just kind of opens a question. Like, I mean, what about the art? Like, should we have 30 different ones, or maybe do 5? Maybe like Our Milk, you do 2, right? So maybe there's a balance there somewhere. This is pretty interesting. Green Ginger. This is manually pixelated by hand, 100% on chain. Now, I'm not sure if this is on base, and I wonder if this is what Amadon is talking about. Like, was this done as on chain on base? Now, I would say, if you're going to put work on base, you almost might as well make it on chain, right? Like, why and then get IPFS? You might as well just put it on chain. So, interesting piece here. All on chain. And here you see almost like what looks like a video game, kind of, but 3 cubes put together, almost like text down here in these dialog boxes, and then in the middle of this kind of universe. Very interesting piece, 350 by 350, animated SVG. And apparently SVG is a way of getting things pretty small. I wonder what the 5 frames, finally here, this is the metadata, I wonder how big this is. 24.4 kilobytes. There we go. So only 24 kilobytes for 5 frames. That's pretty good. That's about right. 350 by 350. It's multicolor though. So that's where the SVG maybe is saving some space. Game over, supper's ready. That's Sachu the Arty. So a pixel artist we've discovered recently with always seems like the circuit boards are coming out from beneath whatever is being shown, whatever is being depicted. Here, a basketball court that's empty. That's edition of 10 for 33 Tezos. Did that sell out? It did, at 10 Tezos. Here's Anis Abdin, Fallout pixel art, 12 colors, kind of looking like a cave, very kind of head-turning work with light. This is almost like Crete, where you'd go down, except you wouldn't have as nice as steps. This is just like going down into a cellar or something. Cool work by Anis Abdin. Look at this brilliant work by Emmy Pixel. This is really going somewhere. Here, I mean, how many colors is this? 4 colors. And you see, I love the depiction here. Let me see if I can get this 100%, because sometimes we get distorted here. Pretty interesting pixel art. It continues to develop here. And what I like is kind of what's being left out. You know, like you don't have everything here. There are decisions that are being made here to simplify this. I think the color is super interesting here. Like very interesting, and it works. Like you have this mauve, you have this deep purple, and then you have like the white, and then almost like this red, purple. Interesting work there. Here's mech.txt with a 2-color 120 by 210 reignition. I'd love to see this at 180 by 210. It must be tiny. 1 bit, 20 editions, and that is at 27 Tezos, and they are coming in, and I think you can still get them. There is 1 left if you hurry, and it looks like a candle, doesn't it? So cool pixel art there from mech.txt. Michael Micasso, reignition. Maybe that means a whole bunch of works are coming. Mark Travail. So another interesting pixel artist using yellow and black a lot, and I guess there's some gray here too. Kind of a fun, interesting piece that was posted on X. And here's Manadil and P1. And this is hand pixelated and animated, 636 kilobytes. Original dimension 171. Again, tempted to think like on chain. I need to find that object or the link for the experimental Tezos on chain. Take and mit1. So here we go. Kind of a comic book format. With the cats and the ticket. So we see a narrative here. And kind of fun, right? So just kind of pretty cool pixel art. Very minimal colors here, interestingly. These kind of rich grays, hand pixelated and animated. 171 by 171, interesting, but scaled up. That pinball guy, BRGR time intro. I thought this was kind of interesting because as you see here, it kind of looks like a picture of a screen, as you can see on the edge here. So it's a picture of a console. It's a picture of a depiction of a console, right? And then the console is depicting a burger, right? So, and then it's with ASCII. So kind of an interesting kind of meta going on here with the picture of the picture of the picture, really, and the picture of the video game depicting a picture of the depiction of the video game that is portraying a burger. Like there's a lot going on here, is what I am trying to say here. Edition of 1 for 15 Tezos, that pinball guy. Here's Pet Errol. So we saw in the intro here, again, looking like minimal extraction from a glitch ROM and then perhaps starting to paint in each one of these little pixels here. Interestingly, kerned ROM corruption, 64 by 64, only 13 kilobytes. Very cool. Here is Louis. Now, we saw this work by Gozo, and it's very important. A playful homage tribute remix. Always put the artist here, just to note, in case, because someone could come to this the first time and think, and just not know, right? And then they have no idea where it comes from. Offspring. So, pleasant landscape, but there's a history. Where was it derived? All art comes from other art. But nevertheless, if it's obvious, it should be, you should definitely put Gozo. But anyways, it looks great. The piece looks pretty cool. And you can tell how much that work resonated with people. That's the second homage we've seen, and the work just came out last week. I mean, amazing. So here, Louis putting some works up. It's an important thing. It's interesting. The reason why I'm so kind of big on the credit, first of all, just out of principle, of course, but there's also like the visual arts is weird in the sense that music, if this was music and you're covering a song, 80% of the royalties, I think, or something along those lines, maybe 50 to 8, like goes to the original. And then, yeah. And so, and I don't know if you need permission or not. I don't know how it works these days. There are so many covers of everything these days. But you don't get that in the visual arts. So, yeah, so I'd say, anyway, gorgeous work from Louis. DJ Kiro. Ecto, interesting square canvas. Interesting negative space here. Another interesting video painting. I think based off of AI outputs, I think is how it works. Quite original. I mean, quite a body of work that Kiro's put together here. Kyle Flemmer, Chosen Family. And it looks like Pikachu. I'm not going to leave this on too long in case people have issues with flashing images. Edition of 12, and that is at $666, and it looks like it's almost sold out. Here's Kiro again with Ranixdeer. So some new video paintings here using, I think, some of Ranixdeer's gradients. Very nice and minimal. Just love it. Cool colors here too. Edition of 10, and that is $550 and 2 gone. Here is a beautiful work by Ex Mortal, Sundays. And look at that. A different kind of glitch, isn't it? A different kind of glitch. We have the same kind of coast, beautiful kind of source image, but really nice kind of clean, wavy glitch. Edition of 7, that is sold out, I think, or just transferred maybe to other collectors. Here's another one by Ex Mortal, and this is sold out. So Ex Mortal doing very well here at $1666. A lot of glitch collectors. Look at that, great. Whatever is going on over here on the left almost looks like a car on fire or something. Not sure. Look at the beautiful sky. This great textured landscape here, kind of complementary colors. And here is Joda. I could be in this place forever. So a beautiful, highly textured work here. And not exactly sure what it is. Looks like an abstract, but not sure. 1200 by 900, and that is 20 Tezos, edition of 1. And here is Nebular, organic links device, and with some audio. Some more nature. I like the audio. Interesting. So that work is on Object edition of 10, and I think that sold out, if I'm not mistaken, at 6 Tezos. So the market hums along here. Glitchtown Arcade edition of 1, and I'm not going to leave this on too long, but we see kind of that hexadecimal there. And this went at auction for only 3 Tezos. But selling, just like Walk there. Renki Omi, and is the name of the work. So this was kind of a different Renki work because you almost see keeping like the selection, so to speak. I wish I could pause this. There's almost like this little light selection that you see around these shapes. So Renki almost keeping part of their process there, not listing as usual. I think August Ground shared this work, Saint Sebastian. So here, now I think Saint Sebastian was full of arrows, weren't they, on the pole? So you don't really see, maybe that's an arrow. Maybe that's an arrow. Not sure. Edition of 1, that's by Raz Alhag. And August Ground picking that up for 450 Tezos. Wow. Big sale. Big sale. This was cool. Skamra, I think this is from the series called Internet Artists. I'm not positive about it, though. Something we've commented a lot on, Internet Artists. So, pretty cool piece. I think it's from that series. This artist on the canvas. I think that's what Skamra was saying. Here's another work, Choose the Bears by Skamra. This is on Object. So again, we're in AI here, so stable diffusion and some, just kind of a weird one. Weird, interesting mark making in the sky and what looks like a bear, and even how the frame, colors are beautiful, the frame weirdly cropped, interesting piece. And here's Kenix Zapata with a couple of works. This also sold. Huge work, as you see here. Quite beautiful. by this super interesting glitch artist, I think you could call him. Artist that does glitch, and that sold for 20 Tezos. Here's another one, edition of 1. And we'll see how that did. Look at all these beautiful colors. So interesting AI from Mechanic Zapata. That also sold for 20 Tezos. This was brilliant. I missed this one. This was from 2022. First Syndrome. Absolutely love this piece by Cel Grustic. Prompt Engineers. I agree. This is one of those works that you almost want to, you could put on the cover of the book on AI, or like definitely deserves its own page. Brilliant. You see people making prompts with AI and computers made by AI. I picked up one of these. It was a great find from First Syndrome. And the artist is, again, the artist, let me just make sure to get that, is Cel Grustic. Genresis, who, of course, wow. So nice work by Genresis. That was from October 2022, I think. Or at least the end of 2022. Interesting piece here from Lily Illo, almost looking like photographic, like it's almost three-dimensional. The detail is quite something. So, as you see here, and I think they're of twins, so really nice painting there by Lily Illo. And here is Martin Joe, who of course I follow with hanging out in the private chat with the Kinky Bears there and having coffee. Pretty cool AI artwork. And here is Toucan. I'm a voodoo child, and I follow Toucan. Very interesting experimental AI here, as you see, with textures. Here's Human Boy, another sunrise, playing with AI and user interfaces, interestingly. And that's an edition of 5. Absurdity picking up 1. Here's No Hygiene, with more super experimental AI artwork. And this is brand new and kind of like a burger for a head. Wild selection here, t-shirt, everything. Wild work, 3 Tezos, edition of 10. Into the physicals we go. Gao Hang by It's Not Gallery. I don't think we've looked at this one, but a fascinating work. Love the bright pink background. And again, looking like some sort of video game character being painted, right? Super interesting. Faux Tableau, Alan Fear's limited edition. So there's some prints by this artist. So kind of really fits in with that other artist who does the Transformer-like robots. So here's Faux Tableau with a burning car, kind of a common theme. And here's someone with a cast and someone drawing on the cast. Beautiful painting. I guess these are prints. Gularama, Dull Roar, acrylic and marker on canvas. Really nicely executed here. As you see, combining some paint, classic sort of technique to make things interesting. If you're trying to make things interesting, add a color and then just start to mix, and you know, and it becomes a lot more interesting. The paint, kind of a classic, I'd argue, contemporary painting technique, among others. So cool work there. Crawling back to you, Gularama also. I reworked this painting from 2021. So interesting piece here too. Interesting kind of, I'm not sure if that's fire, warm colors, and they like it now. Acrylic enamel paint marker on canvas, only a foot by a foot, or 12 inches by 12 inches, so small painting. Here is Die with the Most Likes with a pretty nice piece here. Outback Steakhouse and someone eating probably ground beef or something. Very nice painting. You see the combination of color that we saw. Bondozo Bandito, St. George and the Dragon. I thought this was awesome. Loved, I don't know if this is the finished version of the work. I kind of hope it is. I don't think we've looked at this one. Awesome. Totally awesome. Just so prolific, this artist. This was super interesting too. Julia Wachtel, prominent contemporary artist, from my ongoing series of little tornado paintings. So definitely has a interesting, kind of a grabbing narrative painting here. Just really interesting. The content itself is grabbing and painted quite beautifully. Nice piece. And here's Halloween, or Candyman by Tim Lahan. As we approach Halloween here, I'm not sure if that's on black paper. I think it's probably white paper, but coloring right to the edge there, seemingly. And that is your show, my friends. Thank you for joining me. I am getting it shorter here at only an hour and 4 minutes. Till next time, take care.